What is going on, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Crimes of Musical Shock, where I, Rennie P, review the many albums, both classic and recent status, that have come across my life's listening radar. Today's episode is covering the 1981 self-titled debut from Polish post-punk legends Maanam, an absolutely underrated gem from Iron Curtain era Eastern Europe that provided a boisterous soundtrack to the last decade of the then Soviet-controlled Poland. Maanam was originally the brainchild of one Marek Działkowski, who was previously in the renowned folk bands Anałwa and Ocean. In their early days, they mainly played the folk style that Działkowski himself was originally involved in, but decided to go electric as the 80s rolled around. Not long afterwards came out the self-titled debut Maanam, noticeably dominated by frenetic post-punk song structures made complete by Działkowski's then wife, Kora's mind-blowing vocal gymnastics that altogether rival the musical abilities of Maanam's fellow quote-unquote snobby female-led contemporaries such as the Nina Hagen Band, Blondie, and Susie and the Banshees. Despite how much of a frenzy this album sounded like, though, for many listeners in their home country, the band surprisingly gained traction as one of Poland's most notable rock bands after playing some festival performances the year before in 1980. Backstory aside, it's easy to see how the band's music, especially on this debut, would be such a breath of rebelliously fresh air for Poles under the oppressive force of the USSR, especially in the days leading up to the government crisis that would affect the nation not long after the album's release. Not to mention, the members themselves were openly anti-communist. If the themes of personal freedom here, present on cuts like Boskie Buenos and Stoję, Czuję się świetnie, I mean, look at the album cover for a second. Those band members standing super confidently to the camera, especially Kora. If those weren't enough to tell you this band's message, you better pick up the Polish pace, my good friend. History aside, Maanam has had their own sense of quirk on here, reminiscent of what some British post-punk bands were doing prior to the album's release, resonating the sounds of contemporaries such as XTC, a little bit of Magazine perhaps, as well as fellow Polish acts like Porterband and D-Press. Some of the guitar and bass work on this album is actually insane in retrospective when compared to those of their peers, accentuating melodicism with a bit of a complexity in a manner parallel with Kora's warbling vocals. In this manner, they differed themselves from their contemporaries by playing with an unusual technical edge that was relatively uncommon even among other art punk bands. In addition, there are subtle injections of blues melodies into some of these songs that you can pick up on. Żare Mirage, hope I got that right, is one of my favorite examples of this sort of power combination, featuring fast arpeggiated riffing and a killer guitar solo that caps off this stellar debut, perhaps rivaling the power pop fest of Boskie Buenos. Even quirkier is the solo-leaning cut of, okay, forgive me here, Oddech Zdjura, translating to Breath of the Rat, which takes on an onomatopoeic sense of rhythm in its 16th note-led beat, mimicking the scurrying of the titular rat, while Kora becomes an absolute maniac on the mic that puts even Danny Elfman to shame with her own fast rapping. This follows a similarly sounding track that is the semi-bluesy Karuzela Mazen, with its own equally dizzying feel to boot, much like that of its titular Carousel of Dreams locked behind the oppressive Iron Curtain. Can't forget the dance punk infested opener, set, as I said earlier, Stoję, almost as great as Oddech Zdjura, with its anxiously strong groove and scratchy guitar melody. Same you could say for Jodza Pianodza, another dance punk cut and personal favorite on here with that tried and true quirky and technical melodicism. Oh yeah, did I mention that Polish jazz legend Zbigniew Namilslowski plays alto sax here on Biegnij razem ze mną, and it's absolutely killer, super improvisational stuff, I gotta say, especially for new wave standards. Crazy stuff. There's some brief moments on here where the band shows off their softer side though, which would become a little bit more apparent in their albums past this and their sophomore album, O. Miłość jest cudowna is perhaps a very good example of an instrumental interlude done right, giving the listener a bit of a rest before resuming the crazy post-punk jamboree. And not long afterwards, there's Żal Niebieskich Sial, a once again bluesy 7-minute surreal poetic journey through Kora's isolated mind. Surprisingly trippy for post-punk standards, even compared to some stuff from, say, the Durutti column or even Susie's later material. As I said earlier, this song probably foreshadows the more surrealist and surprisingly gothic direction that they would take on their later albums like Nocny Patrol and Mental Cut. However, I feel it doesn't really hit the same stride as the rest of the debut. Really, this whole debut with its more confrontational attitude. Regardless, it's safe to say that I very much adore this album. It's a crying shame that I'm probably one of the few outside of Poland who does. Granted, a good amount of post-punk from Eastern Europe does tend to be ignored by foreigners, outside of the few I've seen generally praised, such as Siekiera, another Polish act, Kino, or even Molcha Doma. I can only hope my review here does more to bring Maanam into the limelight here, as they should be. This debut there is overall, though, receives a total of 5 stars. Hey guys, hope you liked this video review. If you really did, don't forget to smash those like and subscribe buttons if you want to see more content from me, which I most definitely will be working on. Feel free to also comment what you thought of the album. Was it to your expectations? Do you disagree with me? Was this album just plain too snobby and technical for your standards of post-punk and new wave maybe? Anything that comes to mind. For now though, I shall go. Bye bye!